A troubling trend and major issue in the U.S. is the growing number of American men who are not working and not looking for work. In fact, roughly 7 million American men are missing right now from the U.S. labor force. And joining us to discuss is the Vice President of General Economics and Trade at the Cato Institute, Scott Lincicome. Good morning to you, Scott. This trend has been happening actually for years now. Who are these 7 million men and what are they doing?
Yeah, it really, the trend started back in the 1960s, so it's definitely been going on for a long time. And the 7 million number, sounds pretty scary, but believe it or not, the vast majority of those men are not working for reasons other than anything in the labor market at all. Only around 650,000 of them report being able to find work. Far more are just in school or taking care of family. A lot of them report being disabled, and believe it or not, a lot of them report being retired. So even if we take some of those reports not exactly at their word, the real number is more like 1 to 2 million, not that big, scary 7 million.
But still, losing men in the workforce is being called this invisible crisis, and one that economists say we should be worried about. Aside from really the loss of dignity, talk about the effect this could have on national economic growth.
Yeah, the biggest economic problem is that the economy still needs workers. Even today, we have about 7 million job openings, 500,000 job openings in manufacturing, a couple 100,000 in construction and warehousing, several more in transportation and truck driving. So if you have a big cohort of unwilling, able-bodied men, that's a cap on economic activity in many industries, especially male-dominated ones, meaning if you can't get the workers, you can't expand, you can't run your business. So unless we get more robots or more immigrants, that's a cap on economic growth.
And there is one new field booming with male workers, and that's the nursing field. In fact, the number of male workers has tripled since the early 2000s. Why do you think that is?
Yeah, well, I think it's demand and culture. On the demand side, when there's a lot of demand for a certain job, and right now, as we're an aging society, there's more demand for healthcare workers. Well, that means higher wages in that industry, and so that's going to pull men into the sector. A nurse today can make well over $100,000. Work can be chaotic, of course, but it's steady work. It's not going away anytime soon. So that's really good. The other thing, though, is culture. For a long time, nursing jobs weren't considered manly. But as culture changes, and especially as those wages are so high, jobs that maybe were once stigmatized among some men aren't so stigmatized anymore, and they start accepting them and getting into them.
When it comes to getting men back into the workforce, Scott, what's the solution? What can be done about this? I mean, how many of these jobless men are surviving solely off government benefits?
Yeah, welfare reform is definitely a big step. Recent estimates show that several 100,000 workers right after the Great Recession went on disability, and most of those were probably able-bodied folks who could have been working if the labor market had been better. But now that the labor market is better, they didn't jump back into the labor force because, again, welfare benefits let them stay off. So we've been reforming the disability program and some other welfare benefits, and that's started to bear a little fruit. But there's a lot more that we can do there. But we need other reforms, too. We have occupational licensing laws that just keep men out of certain professions unless you pay a lot of money for a license. And that's especially true in construction. Criminal justice policy keeps criminal records that have long been passed and have nothing to do with violent crime, and that keeps a lot of men out of the workforce too. Housing policy makes it too expensive to move to places with lots of growth. So there's certainly a lot of things that we can do to get that 1 million or 2 million men back working.
Vice President of General Economics and Trade at the Cato Institute, Scott Lincicome. Always great to see you, sir. Thanks for joining us.
Good to see you.